Hello and welcome back to another review. It is Everton versus Luton, and Everton drew this one 1-1. We have only picked up 1 point from the 3 games that we've played against Luton this season. One of those, of course, being a cup game. Overall, I thought it was a pretty iffy performance, if I'm going to be completely honest. We did score, but via a penalty, which I wouldn't have seen paid too much at all this season, and definitely in the future. It was, one of those penalties where just really jockeying for position and, we were able to get on the receiving end of it. It feels like that's been something that we've been subjected to at the back end of the year, but I'm not complaining. The goal, however, was one of those ones which was a real kick in the guts because, really it was out of nothing. The pass, there was nothing too ominous about it. And then, the score, it just came down to pure strength. So this game was very much a game of prolonged stints. We started probably on the back foot. Then, after the 10-minute mark, I reckon we were on the front foot until the penalty shout. And then Luton took over more in the back portion of that first half. And I feel like, once the game got into the business end, the pointy end, the final 20 minutes of the game, I think it became a little bit more blurred. Both teams were going at it a little bit, but, Luton were pressing at the end and we sat back as we usually do and were able to hold firm. And I tell you what, there were some really vital challenges in there. One of the players that had a really good game today, and it was more for his defensive work, was Jack Harrison. There, of course, was the vital block from the bicycle kick in stoppage time, which, would have sealed the game for Luton there and then. But there was one earlier on where there was a diagonal ball that went across to Doughty on the left-hand side, and Jack Harrison had to track it because, well, that's his man, number one, but also because Ben Godfrey, he was playing a little bit further down the pitch and he was more inward. So Harrison was very much in isolation and did a very good job to get a vital toe in, to get it out of play, prevent that cross coming in, because Doughty doesn't lack in, set piece service. He's very good in that respect, pretty pinpoint precise. So you didn't want to give him the chance to, get inside or cut back in, send that cross into a very dangerous spot, because Luton, knowing their ability, their knack to score late game when they really depend on it, it wouldn't be one bit surprising if Luton scored. So I'm pretty happy that we avoided that vulnerability. Speaking of avoiding that vulnerability, there was one player which I think was pretty immense in that, and he has played like a changed man in the final, or in the last 4 games or whatever. And it's probably because he wants a contract, because he's 35 years old, but he's still manning the CDM position quite well. He's had a great back end of the season. GUEYE is my player of the match again, and he was just immense again. Of course, the yellow card in there, but I think he was the ticker of the midfield today. Early in the game, we needed him to present as an option in the center of the park, because we were getting trapped out wide before we even crossed into our attacking third or attacking half. We were stuck in the defensive half. That's why Luton had so much territory early, because we just were cramming ourselves into a corner and we needed to play out from the back into more centralized areas, and GUEYE was good in that area, and we slowly gained a little bit of purpose and control in the game. He was a good interceptor. We've talked about in previous weeks as well, his ability to just position himself in the right spot in the penalty box to not only, be an extra body and congest that area, but also to be that relief option when you need to clear it. When you're not looking for that hoofball option, you go with the short pass, and you need your midfielders to present as an option. So, they can spring it out wide or they can send it further forward to give your backline a bit of release. But I think GUEYE was good in that area yet again. You would have seen him a number of times doing exactly that, being on the edge of the penalty box, our own box, and being able to launch passes forward or out wide, which, were able to give us a little bit more leverage on the game. So he was really important in that facet as well. But I also think him being in a centralized area before they entered the penalty box, Luton, also allowed him to prevent that central play for Luton. They were forced to go out wide more so, which, I mean, could have worked wonders for Luton, but I think, Branthwaite and Tarkowski have been rock solid in the middle. Every time those crosses come in, they're pretty much on the end of it nearly every single time. As I said, he was the ticking presence that we needed. Should I say he was the ticker in the midfield? He ended the game with 49 passes, but doing that at 94% passing accuracy, which is great to see. And then from a defensive perspective, 4 tackles, 1 interception, 1 clearance. So he was doing a bit of everything. Didn't do too much on the attacking side in terms of making key plays, but the short passes that keep your plays prolonged or your passing sequences prolonged, you need players like GANA to not go missing in those moments, so you can, switch the play or, move and shuffle Luton defenders out of position because of where you're swinging the pass. Those things are really important. So I think he was a really good presence today, and he will be my player of the match. I do think that Ashley Young was actually a pretty good defender today. He didn't really get bypassed too much. They actually didn't look to exploit that side. It felt like the side that, Chong was really working out of was the side where Ben Godfrey was manning, and they got a fair bit of success out of that. But every single time they went to Ashley Young's side, he barely got bypassed. Now, he did get done in by the matchup for the goal that was conceded, right? Because, some people will say he's just outright shit. He's a liability. In that case, that shouldn't really have happened where Ashley Young was on an island with Adebayo because, it was going to be curtains. Ashley Young never jumped. I think he may have either misjudged it or he got dragged down slightly by Adebayo and, he was able to knock it off his chest, down at his feet and score with the left foot. But I think that was killed early on. Our chances of actually getting it clear were killed when Tarkowski was out wide playing a pass and we turned it over on that Godfrey manned side. And it thus meant that, Branthwaite had to push across. Ashley Young had to push further inward, to compensate for Tarkowski moving across the pitch. So that was just a byproduct of Luton having 2 centre forwards, and we had our size moved across the pitch that didn't align with where their centre forwards were stationed. So yeah, it was a pretty sticky situation once we turned the ball over. All they needed to do was exploit the matchup or be good enough to identify the mismatch, send it there, send it aerially as well. It wouldn't have been any use if it was passed at ground level, waist height. So, yeah, credit to Luton for capitalizing on the mistake. But, I think, the turnover, Luton cramming us into the corner like they did in those early stages of the game, I think that just really contributed to our undoing in that scenario. So, it's just a pain in the ass that it happened. But, I think if we had our time again, we probably would have just cleared our lines. And, Tarkowski would have been able to get back into position, realign with where their centre forwards are, and we probably wouldn't have had an issue with, contesting the aerial threat. So we did that well today, but, in that sort of situation, we were absolutely cooked. Before we leave, I do think the striker partnership was very interesting at the end of the game with Chermiti and Beto. He really showed some signs, Chermiti. I tell you what, he looks like he's growing in confidence the last couple of games where he's gotten a bit of increased run. In this game, there were 3 moments which stand out to me. There was one where he had a beautiful touch, to bring the ball down from the air, just outside our penalty box. Then there was one where he just completely discarded the opposition and was able to keep it in, send a through ball forward. It was actually perfectly weighted. And then the other one was just a simple hold-up play, but it was really clever how he was able to manipulate his body positioning to protect the landing zone, and Luton never really stood a chance in being able to actually get the ball back. I mean, he won a foul for our team. In the late stages, that was pretty vital because territory, of course, is very coveted and important. So he did some really nice things, and it adds a layer of complexity when you have two strikers, one that can play a little bit deeper and can probably contest things aerially, and then you have a player like Chamiti who presents as an option. You send a pass to his feet, he'll be able to pass it back, or he'll be able to swing it out wide. There's so many things you can do, and yeah, I think it just adds a layer of variety with the sort of passes that we can play, and that can sort of confuse defenses time and time again if you're keeping things unpredictable. So that is probably one of the things that I'm looking forward to going into next season. What are they going to do in the off season? Are they going to practice this two-man up front, you know, more Dutch traditional style of play? Is that chemistry going to be developed over the off season? What pairing is that going to look like? I mean, Beto and DCL is an obvious choice, but do you want DCL closer to goal, or do you want him contributing to hold up a little bit higher up the pitch? I don't know. It's just a little thought to have going forward. So that's going to do it from me. I hope you enjoyed this one. We've got 2 games left in the season. One against Sheffield in about 8 days' time. Then we've got one against Arsenal on the final day of the season. But we did sabotage Luton's hopes of staying up. They don't have goal difference on their side, and they're tied with Nottingham on points. 1 extra game played. So they're in a bit of a tough spot. But, I mean, this was a game they needed to win, and we did a pretty good job of stunting their chances. But, you know, you would like to see Everton close out the season winning these sort of games because, I mean, this team has been an Achilles heel of ours. We cannot beat Luton. I don't know what it is, but yeah, they've put in some solid performances against us. Fair play to them. We'll see you soon. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, bye for now.